Hello, spellcasters! My name is Chance, and welcome to my spellbook. Today we have a real treat in store for all of you, and a real pain in the neck in store for me. There are a couple spells, and I've been running into them progressively more as the spell level gets higher, that do a lot of different things. And although that's great, and it provides a ton of utility to the spells, it's a pain in the neck for the guy trying to simplify them. So I hope you all appreciate this video in particular. It was interesting to try and frame it in a way that would make sense and still fit on the screen in a semi-reasonable manner. So yeah, long story short, I hope you guys enjoy. And also I did an interview with Nerdarchy over on their live channel recently, so if you guys want to check that out, I'd really appreciate it. It was kind of a cool conversation between myself and Dave. I'll put the link in the pinned comment. And yeah, let's dive right in here. So we're going to start out today's uploads with Magic Circle. We're going to be doing 7 uploads today, every other hour after this one. So just check out the community tab for a full list and make sure you subscribe to get notified of that. But we're talking about Magic Circle, which sounds simple, but let me tell you, it is certainly not. And it is usable by the Cleric, Paladin, Warlock, and the Wizard, as so far as to say it's found in their spell list. And in certain circumstances, this will be more than beneficial, you could say, to have in your back pocket. However, that requires a little bit of foresight on your behalf, but in any case, let's dive right into its effects here. Alright, choose one of the following creature types: celestial, elementals, fae, fiends, or undead. The creatures are affected by the cylinder in the following ways. They cannot willingly enter the cylinder, and they must first succeed on a charisma save to enter magically. Disadvantage on attack rolls against targets within the cylinder, and can't charm, frighten, or possess targets within the cylinder. You can also have the spell function in reverse, so you can kind of prevent creatures from leaving the cylinder and protect targets outside of it. Really cool stuff, like genuinely very interesting, and in certain campaign settings or certain combat encounters, this might actually be able to derail a campaign, just through its own virtue. But in order to do that, you would certainly need, once again, a pretty sizable amount of foresight on your behalf. But, if one of your party members getting possessed by a certain demon is the linchpin of an arc, this spell might prevent that from happening virtually entirely. So just, of course, bear that in mind. The cast time is 1 minute, so it's not, once again, plays into that whole foresight thing. The range is 10 feet, and the cylinder itself is 10 feet, and then 20 feet tall. So it's quite sizable in that regard. The duration is 1 hour, and at higher levels, the duration increases by 1 hour for each slot level above 3rd. The components are the holy trinity of verbal, material, and somatic, and you're gonna want to take note of the material component here. It is holy water or powdered silver and iron worth at least 100 gold piece, which the spell consumes. Now, reading this and going online and kind of digging around, it provides an interesting point about the approximate value of holy water and whether or not you could just use the ceremony spell to circumvent this. I don't know. I probably wouldn't allow it, to be honest, because if you can just make the holy water that the spell consumes, it's kind of for naught. I would probably phrase it in a way where it needed to be blessed by a priest of a certain ranking or something to that effect to prevent characters from just making their own. But I don't know, that's a DM call to make, so it's certainly worth bringing up, but I don't know, that's my 2 cents on it. And the school is Abjuration, which is completely unsurprising. Now let's move on here to the full description, and I'll kind of talk about it a little bit more. So, you create a 10-foot radius, 20-foot tall cylinder of magical energy centered on a point on the ground that you can see within range. Glowing runes appear whenever the cylinder intersects with the floor or another surface. Choose one or more of the following types of creatures: celestials, elementals, fae, fiends, or undead. The circle affects a creature of the chosen type in the following ways. The creature can't enter the cylinder by non-magical means. If the creature tries to use teleportation or interplanar travel to do so, it must first succeed on a charisma saving throw. The creature has a disadvantage on attack rolls against targets within the cylinder. Targets within the cylinder can't be charmed or frightened or possessed by the creature. When you cast this spell, you can elect to cause its magic to operate in the reverse direction, preventing a creature of this specified type from leaving the cylinder and protecting the targets outside of it. At higher levels, when you cast a spell using a spell slot of 4th level or higher, the duration increases by 1 hour for each slot level above 3rd. Very interesting stuff, as you might imagine. Honestly, I really like it. I think it plays well thematically, and I think it's a good spell as it relates to rewarding characters for due diligence. It has a lot of very impressive effects that thwart what these enemies will typically do to you, and since there's not really a level restriction outside of the saving throw, I guess affects scalability. This is essentially viable at almost every level. Certainly early on, odds are you're going to be running into primarily undead, at least in most campaigns, that's a general trend, and undead aren't known for having very high charisma at all, so it's a pretty safe bet that they're going to fail that saving throw. And as long as you're a half-decent caster, and as long as your DM isn't throwing things at you that are almost geared towards charisma, this should be good at virtually every level of play without needing to upcast it, which is super valuable. Now let's move on to some alternative uses here. So the first one I was really thinking of was using this as kind of a way to create a doorway of sorts. This would be good in certain halls of the dead if there's an undead outbreak, to kind of seal them in there and give you roughly a short rest to kind of replenish any damage you might have taken or any spell slots you might have lost based on your class. But that's one way to use it. Another way to use it, along the same vein of thought, is to really just escape outright. Odds are a lot of these creature types aren't going to have access to teleportation, at least towards the beginning of the game. It's not super likely. I mean, fae might, and elementals in some cases might, but for the most part, you're pretty in the clear. And another good way to use it is just use it to execute planning. It's kind of a cop-out for me to say that because I've been mentioning it throughout, but it is worth putting a finer point on. This is 100% a spell that is geared towards really rewarding due diligence. A great thing about it is it's not concentration as well, so you can still use this and another damage dealing concentration spell to really kind of drive the point home. Another idea that I was thinking of for one of my campaigns is using the concept of this spell as a dungeon master to create a prison of sorts for extraplanar entities. This spell would be activated by some version of a glyph of warding at a high enough level or modified in a way so that it's kind of always active as long as the main caster wishes it to be. Just a kind of cool idea for a world building element to it. And it might be good for questioning these entities, especially if you can trap them within the circle itself, and once again, provided that they constantly fail those charisma saves. It's very good. Another thing I want to point out as well is if they try and use a teleportation ability and fail that save, that ability's used, right? They don't get to use that same ability again and again until they do succeed. At least that's assuming that they don't have like a ridiculous amount of spell slots or usages of such abilities. But in any case, it is a good way to drain that resource just on its own. So it is really interesting. I like it. I think it's a great spell. I think taking it is kind of arbitrary. It depends on play style, right? If you are like a guns blazing, cast fireball all the time kind of caster, this might not suit your character, although it's kind of tempting to take. And to be honest, if that's your playstyle, you might not find any use for it. However, if you are a more meticulous or a more cowardly caster, then this is certainly a viable approach for you. In any case, let me know what you think of Magic Circle down beneath in the comment section. Be sure to mention any thoughts, questions, comments, or concerns you have regarding it, or even any cool stories as well. And of course, if you'd like to get a free one-shot, check out the Guild Hall, use code WELCOME to get it for free, and yeah, don't forget to check out that Nerdarchy video and check out the community tab. That being said, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and as always, happy casting everyone.